You know, in the 1800s, when cocktails really started to become popular, there was no refrigeration, there were no freezers, there was no way to make ice. The only way they were able to obtain ice was from lake ice.
Lake ice is very pure, lake ice is very clear. The only people who have ice like that nowadays are ice sculptors.
Well, that's what brings us to Okamoto Ice Studios here in Long Island City. They're gonna show us how they make that beautiful clear ice.
Let's go.
Shintaro the Snowman.
Hey.
Shintaro, as a master ice carver, one of the most key elements to what you do is obviously dead clear ice. How do you achieve that?
We get the clear ice by having the water moving with the pump as it freezes from bottom up. So what that does is eliminates all the still air bubbles that creates the frostiness of the ice. Any kind of impurity stays on the surface by kind of freezing from bottom up.
So this is exactly the way lake ice is made, just upside down.
Exactly. Working with cream and bartenders is basically creating custom cubes. What we've been doing lately is a sphere.
So you wouldn't be able to make these spheres with regular freezer ice because they would just shatter while you were trying to work them, right?
It's certainly more difficult because, you know, the regular conventional ice, you know, it's very brittle inside. So it's really difficult to get the fine lines and contours that you can get with these sculpture ice. These dead clear ice is, you know, more densely frozen, so it's very responsive to tools.
I've seen you do this before, and I would love for you to turn this into a sphere for us.
Yeah, let's try that. Okay. And kind of rounding out the edges.
How many of these can you make in an hour?
Well, I think I got to a point where I can make these spheres in about 30 to 45 seconds if I go really, really fast.
Wow. Wow.
So it's a good flow. It's a good flow.
It's kind of mesmerizing.
Right? Let's see.
Perfect.
Nice. Wow, that's really beautiful. What a craft, what a skill. Taro, thank you so much for everything today. We learned so much about ice. So we're going to the one bar that can utilize this ice and have the ingredient that we're looking for.
The Renaissance liqueur Alkermes. We know you use the ice from Okamoto's because it's the closest thing they have to lake ice. But before we get into that, let's see what we came to drink.
Sure thing.
Word on the street is you have something that's unattainable in the States.
That's what I hear, yeah.
So what do you got back there?
Well, from my last trip to Florence, as far as we know, this is the only bottle behind any bar in New York City.
But this is, no one's allowed to sell this
Right,
in the States.
right, myself included. So this is just for close friends.
A lot of these spirits were created by monks for the famous families like the Medicis and stuff. This was from the 1700s. They're all really botanicals, you know, made from botanicals, and they were meant to be more for healing purposes and medical purposes.
This is actually still made by monks in Florence from the Antica Farmacia di Santa Novella. And its primary ingredient that you recognize it by, not taste-wise, but recognize it by, is the red dye. And that comes from?
Comes from, well, in Italian the word is coccinilla, which is derived from an insect. The insect lives on cacti harvested from Mexico, and that was what was used traditionally to make this color going back to the 1700s, which is when this recipe comes from.
Right, and they literally harvest tens of thousands of these tiny bugs off of the cactus. They steam them, they dry them, and they crush them, and they make this red powder that and that's actually a replacement for an even older dye, which is where the name Alkermes comes from, which is the Kermes insect, which is, you need even more of those, apparently, to make the dye than you do the cochineal.
And originally, they didn't even know that was an insect. They believed it was a plant. And until microscopes came around, they really actually realized that's an insect. That's a living organism. So Richard, Shintaro gave us this big slab of ice that he says this is how you get your ice every day in your deliveries. Can you show us how you break it down?
Absolutely. As you know, because this ice is so sort of devoid of impurities, it kind of breaks right away. You don't
Regular
have...
freezer ice would have.
Exactly.
So these are beautiful, Rick. I want to see this in a stirred drink. This would be, I'm sure it's gonna be gorgeous.
Showcase this ice.
Okay, we'll do. This drink is traditionally sweet vermouth, so we'll have the Giuseppe Carpano Antica formula.
We're keeping it all Italian today.
All Italian, in honor of you, John.
This is, by the way, I think the most delicious vermouth you can buy.
It's you can drink it on its own, on the rocks. It's just delicious fortified wine product. This is our go-to, our standby. It's great.
Richard, thank you so much for inviting us in your bar.
My pleasure.
It's amazing.
Many safe returns. Grazie.
Wow, that's delicious.